Okay, welcome to Entertainment World, and today we have Daniel and Bayou. And how are you two doing today?
Great.
We're doing amazing, Steve.
Thank you for having us.
Great to hear you.
So you guys have been extremely busy over the last couple of years, from doing Adidas, U2, Coldplay, P. Diddy. My gosh, what haven't you done besides winning about 50 awards?
Well, it's just like it's a huge pleasure to be able to do what you're really passionate about in life. And, every day is like a blessing. You just have to seize your destiny, look at it, and keep creating on it. And, of course there's barriers in everything you do, but you just have to learn how to dance with them.
Sounds like somebody read Think and Grow Rich. So, Bayou, why don't you tell us where you're originally from and a little bit about you?
Yeah, I'm originally from the South, and Louisiana and that area, and then I basically moved to New York, realizing that I was kind of in the too small of a pond, and so I ended up moving to New York and becoming the first woman professor at Parsons New School and the media department. And then New York just stole my heart, and I was just like, I got to stay here. So I stayed there, and then ended up doing my own documentary and running into Daniel at some point, and then right before I went to Jordan Amman to teach over there filmmaking, we met, and then we came back and we wrote a film, Text Me, about the texting generation and about how there's people sitting at a table texting each other and not really communicating, and this is
based off your students,
which are based off
sitting next to each other, texting each other. I love that.
That's right. So I actually saw that, in my students, and I said, wow, there's actually a funny story here. And this is before we see it everywhere now. And so we did Text Me, and it ended up getting in 15 different film festivals. It won, it got voted by Fox Searchlight.
DreamWorks.
Yeah, and then it was on Times Square for 3 days on the Big Tron, won Audience Award there, and then Motorola Phones, and it recently went viral. And as all that was happening, I was like, wow, we also got to work with Lea Michelle before she was on Fox's Glee, and we won New York Television Festival. And we're like, I was kind of looking at it, I was like, I think, together we have something, we should be in Hollywood. And so at that point I said, Daniel, I think we need to move to Hollywood and just really pursue our dream flat out. And
I think you're right. The idea of being a husband and wife team is really special, because I feel like a lot of stories, not quite sure if the male has fully understood the female world and universe and perspective. And I feel like whenever Bayou and I are writing something, she acts out the female parts and I act out the male parts. So I just think it feels like we really have a very real portrayal of our characters.
No, your personalities, you guys are definitely a perfect couple. Just from the couple conversations that we've had, you do the answer each other's question. So I do have a question on the texting. So did you notice anything, when you go to the clubs or restaurants here in Los Angeles, that people that are out on their dates are texting while they're out on their dates?
yeah, absolutely. I see that everywhere. And so now it's so funny because it's almost like that, because we wrote that in 2009. And so that was right as, the phones and the texting and all that was happening. And now it's everywhere.
Of course, people live in their phones now, right?
Yeah, it's called Facebook Live. So, Daniel, let's hear about you.
Me? Okay, so I was the kind of kid who was always searching for what I wanted to do when I grew up and not quite knowing what that was. And I tried pretty much every art form, like photography and architecture. My parents were both designers, but I knew that wasn't right for me. And then I took a class at Art Center in Pasadena at night, Art Center at night, and I fell in love with filmmaking. My teacher hated my guts and gave me the hardest time because he was like a very Hollywood type of guy, and he wanted all my films to have obvious conflict and obvious antagonists, and my films were very kind of artsy at the time, and so I had a really hard time, but I just really had a strong, huge knowledge that this is the thing I really wanted to do, and it just felt right,
So, looking back on your days at Pasadena, did you feel you learned anything, or did you just basically learn the stuff on your own and It's like, okay, I'm a rebel now. I can do this on my own without your knowledge.
Well, I was. It was kind of an interesting part. It's a very interesting question, Steve, because I look back and I was actually, my first mentor was named Marcel Langenaguer, and he was an Art Center grad student, and he was doing work that was so advanced at the time as I was just learning and just starting, and I was working on his sets, and he was shooting these kind of massive student productions, bigger than anyone had ever done, I think, at Art Center. And, he had, the cinematographer of Godzilla shooting his film because they were both Swiss, and they had this, Swiss connection. And, it was, I was on his sets. I was, really learning a lot. And he made a spec commercial that got won the Cannes Film Festival for, new directing talent. And so it was interesting to sort of be making my own way and then, learning from him. And, he ended up directing a movie with Hugh Jackman and Ewan McGregor from Trainspotting.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of trying to learn as much as I could, and he was always in the library just studying art history and super interested. And so I think I picked up a lot from him in terms of being a filmmaker that was really well researched and trying to figure out every aspect of what you were doing in the world that you were creating.
You came from the commercial world too, where you worked for under one of the best in the business.
Yeah, I was. My first job out of NYU Film School was working as an assistant at Ridley Scott Associates. Ridley Scott directed Blade Runner and Gladiator and all these amazing films. And, his son, Jake Scott, was an incredible director, as well as Chris Cunningham. So I was just trying to, again, soak up as much as I could from these people. Our whole career after that, getting to, advance forward and keep being persistent and following our dreams, we've been able to work with a lot of amazing people. Most recently, Bella Hadid, who's one of the top models in the world right now. Coldplay, P. Diddy, Patricia Field, who did all the fashion for Sex and the City. And always just learning from these people and observing them and learning what makes them great and then applying that to what we do.
Yeah, even Isaac Hayes, you should talk about that.
Yeah, Isaac Hayes was the first client after leaving Ridley Scott Associates, RSA Films, and he was an incredible human being. Obviously an Academy Award winner, humanitarian, always, doing something really positive in the world. And I think that's what has created perhaps the biggest imprint on Bayou and I, is that we want to make projects that are entertaining, people hugely identify with, but open people's eyes. But that they have to lift people up in some kind of way, open their eyes, make people more aware. That's a huge part of what we do in every project.
With Ridley Scott, he did the all-time great commercial, which basically put Apple on the map.
1984, yeah, so good.
To me, that I think it had a bigger impact on me than watching Blade Runner, which is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm sure he'd be blown away by that statement. But I know you work with a lot of incredible talent, and I think Ridley is one of those directors who really is very strong with directing actors.
From your standpoint, what would you say you learned from them as far as directing actors?
Wow, that's a good point. I mean, I think with Ridley, I think it's having as much reality, in the movie making process. I know there was this one thing that really impacted me just reading at the time when he was making Hannibal with Julianne Moore, and I think just how he, it's really important for her, how she's holding the gun, that it's really authentic, that everything just comes from a place of total authenticity. And I think that Bayou and I, that's something that we go to great lengths to do. When we were doing our film Text Me, we wanted it to be about the texting generation, the 14 to 18-year-olds who just they kind of live in speaking shorthand, text language. And so we brought in Matt Bennett to co-write the script with us, and that was a great idea because he was exactly that generation. It brought so much authenticity to it.
Right, now we're writing a short film with an actress from India, Sheena Cohen, and she's bringing the authenticity of the Indian culture, and she's got a huge following over there. And so it's kind of we work with the actor, and we make sure that they're comfortable, and that while we're directing, I basically make sure that they are able to really create and feel comfortable in their space and on set with us, and so that they will give us the best performance they can. Because I've taught seminars and things with Marisol Nichols. She was on Teen Wolf and a few films, and she's I've worked with some directors, and once they tell me I can have this is now, I give them what they want. She said, I want to make the director happy as an actor. And she says, I'll do whatever they ask. And then she's like, and then at the end, she said, famous director said, okay, now you can do how you would do it. And a freebie. And so I tend to allow my performers, my actors that I work with, to do the same thing, because I think sometimes something feels more natural for them, and all of a sudden that comes across on camera and it feels more real. So, but yeah, I think just kind of creating a really comfortable kind of atmosphere where they feel they can really create and they really get into the character and what's happening.
We validate them a lot, Steve.
Yeah, that's a big thing for us. Because if you feel good in your art and somebody's validating you, you're going to just do even better. You're going to keep shining at it.
Exactly. You've got the short film. Anything else exciting you're working on this year?
Yeah, let's see. We are, Bayou and I are writing a new script, a comedy, and it comes from our experience living in Silver Lake. And it's kind of like a satire on the hipster culture there, it's going to be hilarious. That's all I can really say right now about it, but we're having a lot of fun, just kind of all the kind of oddball characters that we always saw hanging around Silver Lake. We're kind of developing them into these full-on characters, which is really fun.
And it's really catching on. Our managers and other producers and investors are really loving the idea, so we're just running with it. This is the one that, kind of is really catching fire, so we're really excited about it.
So are you guys going to shoot it on Red Cam, or how are you going to shoot the film?
And that's a really interesting question. I think a lot of it's going to take place, at nighttime. So I think we're going to just search out for a camera that does really well in low light. I'm really wanting to shoot on the Arri Alexa camera for this piece. And I don't know, I'm just excited. I'm really excited. What really excites me is getting out there and finding the next generation of extremely amazing talent. I feel like Bayou and I have always had this ability. Bayou, was it star forecasting?
Yeah. So we, how there's fashion forecasters, Steve. We basically, I call it the star forecasters, because we've done that a couple of times, multiple times. And that's one of the reasons why we're called the Dream Team Directors, because we found Matt Bennett. He was in Nickelodeon's Victorious after we put him in our film Text Me. He ended up being in the star Will Smith's film, The Virginity Hit, and then also on The Big Bang Theory. And then right after we cast Lea Michelle, she went to go on to Fox's Glee.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple of other friends that we've actually just helped out, just giving them tips on their reel. All of a sudden, one of our friends,
Georgina O'Reilly.
Yeah, Georgina O'Reilly went super famous. I think it was in Canada on a TV show. And then another friend of ours, Jim Meskimen, we gave him a tip he does these incredible voiceovers, impressions, and we gave him a tip. It's okay, this is how you need to film you doing your impressions. The next day, Steve, he goes super viral because he did what we suggested. And it's so I kind of we see talent, but we can really see who's going to be the next big thing. And I also kind of the authenticity of say Slumdog Millionaire, because they used some unknown actors that completely just took you there to their culture and made you. I think that's kind of one of the reasons why that film did so well, is because they had some unknowns, but they were so talented and so good at what they did. It just really took off.
What advice would you give to an actor and say they blew an audition? What would you say to them on how to improve their audition?
Yeah, how to improve the audition. Well, I know one thing, if they blew it, to find a way to, at least if they knew they blew. You mean if they knew they blew it during it, then at least thank everyone there, and if they could get the contact of the director or the producer, reach back to them and say thank you so much for this, or reach back to the casting agent and say thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. If you have anything in the future that you feel would fit, that I would fit, please, reach back out. But I really, just appreciating the experience, and that's what
There's always another one, right?
Yeah, there's always going to be another one, and the good attitude, leaving with a good attitude, and some would say, a good taste, leaving a good taste in the producer, directors, or casting agent's mouth as you leave, even though they know that they may not have done the best that day. Then I think that's the best thing, because I remember the actors that we may not have cast, but then I might go back. I have casted others for other roles because of their good attitude,
I think you're so right. I think Bayou, it's like staying in touch, and like I know Val Kilmer was rejected multiple times, I heard, from doing The Doors, and he just kept making tapes, and I think leaving them outside of Oliver Stone's house. So it's like, I think the persistence, that squeaky wheel thing, but like squeaking in a way that everyone can experience, not like a really like annoying or, but just like being that persistent person who is kind of like in a kind of a new way representing themselves. Yeah.
What would be the best way for an actor or a producer looking to hire you guys as directors to get in touch with you?
Yeah, just visit us at dreamteamdirectors.com, or like, Instagram, Dream Team Directors, or Twitter, Bayou Dream Team.
Yeah, Dream Team Film is our Twitter, and reach out to us, and then we love just talking with actors and producers and even writers. We are writer-directors, and we tend to do a lot of our own work because we fall in love with, what we do, but we also love working on other projects that are just, because there are some that are just totally along the lines of what we are all about. So absolutely, we'd love to hear from all types of artists.
Yeah, Daniel at DreamTeamDirectors.com. Hit me up. Let me know what you guys are doing. We love doing, projects, whether they're documentaries, whether they're music videos, whether they're films, commercials. Like, we just want to work and do great work.
Perfect. All right, I appreciate you two taking the time this afternoon to talk to us, and best of luck in 2017.
If I just have one last thing I want to say.
Yeah.
We really, really appreciate being on this, recording with you, and I just want to encourage, like, anyone who's an actor or a creative person to go out and see La La Land, because I feel like it completely captures, the magic of what we do, as well as some of the challenges of what we do in a really authentic, amazing way.
Perfect.
Cool.